Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mariano and the Dannon team for having me here. It's a very exciting day for us. So I'm Megan Westgate. I'm the Executive Director of the Non-GMO Project. And the Non-GMO Project, which is that little orange butterfly that hopefully you all have seen on food packages, we're a nonprofit organization that was incorporated in 2007 with a mission to preserve and build a non-GMO supply chain, educate consumers, and provide verified non-GMO choices. The project originally was started by natural food retailers. We were seeing in stores that increasingly shoppers were coming in looking for non-GMO choices, and they were having a hard time figuring out which food was GMO and which wasn't. At that time, there were a lot of self-made claims by manufacturers saying that something was non-GMO, but there was no third-party oversight and no consistency or transparency about the labeling of that. So the Non-GMO Project set out to create North America's first third-party standard certification program and label for non-GMO. And we spent the first few years just creating the standard, creating the system. The butterfly label launched in 2010, and since that time, it has become one of the fastest growing food labels. We currently have about 2,900 brands that are in our program, with over 36,000 verified products representing $16 billion in annual sales. We believe that everyone has the right to know what's in their food that they're eating and feeding to their families, and also that everyone deserves to be able to access non-GMO choices. And we also recognize that we all vote with our wallets every time we shop, and that collectively, through that action, we have the power to change the way that our food is grown and made. We also believe that building a non-GMO supply chain is a really critical step of transitioning towards a safe and healthy food supply for future generations. And so today's historic announcement by Danone is very exciting from the supply chain perspective when it comes to non-GMO. And part of the reason for that is because most GMOs are used for animal feed. If you look at corn, for example, less than 10% of corn grown in the United States is used for human food. A lot of it's used for ethanol, and about 40% of all US corn is used for feed. So when we talk about building a non-GMO supply chain, addressing animal feed is really critical. And the Non-GMO Project standard is the only program that requires ongoing testing of animal feed. That level of rigor just isn't anywhere else. And the reason that that's so significant, again, is because if we really want to build a non-GMO supply chain, we've got to address the feed. But the reason that the Non-GMO Project is the only one requiring that level of rigor is it's very difficult. You can't find out from testing milk or yogurt or any other animal products whether or not the animal ate GMOs. You have to get back to the feed level to be able to find that out. And that adds, honestly, non-GMO verification is already complex, but then you add in the step of having to get all the way back to the feed level, and I can say hands down that verifying animal products is the most complicated part of our standard. It is the hardest type of product to verify under the Non-GMO Project. And that's why this commitment is so historic, especially when you look at the scale that we're talking about and the impact that it's going to have.
You were talking about you have to go to the animal feed to identify the GMOs. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, can the body actually detect? If you can't detect it in the end product, can the body detect it? Is it harmful?
So this is one of the many areas where more research is needed. There have been studies where scientists have been able to identify in meat and milk that the animal ate GMO feed. But there is a big leap between that and being able to create a commercially replicable quantitative test to say, what was the threshold of GMO in that animal feed. So there are studies that indicate that yes, it does have an impact on the animal products. It may have an impact on the human body, but that's a big question mark, and that's why that underlies a lot with GMOs of why we need an informed choice, because this really is an experiment. And as Gary mentioned, in the United States, we are one of the only populations in the developed world that doesn't have access to this information. We are unwillingly part of this experiment until companies like Dannon step up and create an alternative for people.